Hey everyone, it's the Grumpy Meeple, and I am coming to you today with the first in what I think will be a weekly installment, probably on Saturdays, of my new Grumpy News segment, where I'll just cover some of the news in the industry that's come up over the week and that I found to be interesting or that kind of intersects with my interests. So, let's get right into it. So, one game that I'm very interested in that I haven't had a chance to cover on the channel yet is Core Space. So, Core Space is a really awesome system, kind of even beyond just the game itself, just as like a gameplay system that you could possibly apply to other games. It's really something special. So, just a brief overview basically. The game comes with miniatures, the rule set, missions. The way that I play it at least is a campaign based solo gaming experience where you're saving your progression from round to round, and there's, you know, a narrative kind of similar in scope to the narrative in something like Zombicide Washington ZC. So it's there, but it's not necessarily telling an interconnected story. And then there will be periods where it does kind of bump up the narrative elements a little bit as you go. But it's kind of like a much simpler version of something like Necromunda or something like that. It's like a skirmish type game, but with a solo component because you're always, regardless of how many players you have, you're always including these AI enemies that are constantly spawning on the board and trying to take you out. So you can play it any number of ways. You can play it completely solo. You can play it cooperatively, where you each just run like a character on your crew. You can play it kind of semi-cooperatively, where you're each running your own crews and competing with each other for resources, but also fighting against the AI. Or you can play it purely cooperatively, or purely competitively, where you're just gonna murder the other guy whenever you see him, whatever else is going on. So it's a really cool game. It's a really cool system. It comes with these dungeon mats, or these kind of area mats, and then with a set of 3D cardboard terrain. You can see right here is one of the kind of plastic pieces that interlocks the terrain. There's another piece here. And so each mission is built out in a specific environment. And as we go down here, you can see it's really cool because it has all this scatter terrain that you build out, and little kind of gantries and windows that you can jump through or break out. And the standout feature is of the terrain, I think, is the crates that actually open and close and contain, as you can see here, contain the items that are within them. So that's a really cool and fun experience to actually open a physical crate in a board game and have it have a pile of loot inside it, instead of just drawing a card or something with a little less context. So really great game, really awesome. I highly recommend it. The company is great too. Battle Systems. They make a line of terrain, and I found them to be really easy to work with. I had some pieces in one of the sets that I bought that I wasn't happy with the way that they kind of snapped out, in the cardboard, and so they ripped. And I had a piece that I messed up when I was trying to trim it, and they didn't ask any questions. They just said, "Cool, give me your address. I'll send you replacements right now." So very cool, great customer service, like world class customer service, and the kind of main designer is maybe the most genuinely kind of passionate person I've ever seen from a company, a board game company. This guy will spend literally 4 hours on a live stream Q&A, like answering questions. I can't even sit through them and watch them continuously. I can't imagine how he gets the energy and the kind of wherewithal to run a 4 hour continuous discussion. And he just won't leave until he answers every single question. And he'll answer the same question 50 times because people are coming in and out. And he never loses his cool and he never cuts it short. Really an incredible company. And I know that there's more core space coming. And that's actually what we're here to talk about, is some new sets that they just announced. But there's also the Core Space Firstborn Kickstarter campaign, which ended back in like December. You might still be able to late pledge that, I'm not sure. It comes with a ludicrous pile of awesome stuff. So highly recommend Core Space in general and the company Battle Systems. But the specific news that came out this week was about a couple of new releases for summer 2021, and these are really cool. So here you can see the miniatures that are featured in one of the releases. So they put out this set called Shift Change at Megacorp and a second set called Rogue Purge, which added new gameplay elements to the system. It added the idea of it added more civilians and more civilian types. So civilians are like NPCs that are wandering around the map who can interact with you or interfere with you depending on the roll of a die, basically, that randomizes their behavior. It's really cool. And Shift Change at Megacorp and Rogue Purge both added new elements like that. But because they weren't sure about the level of interest in them, they didn't mass manufacture them. They had them printed in resin instead, the miniatures. And basically what they're doing here is they're replacing Shift Change at Megacorp, so bringing all the gameplay elements from it into this new expansion called Black Star Rising, and so that they can get this system into people's hands without having to reprint in the whole pack in plastic and kind of repeat it for people who already bought it. It wouldn't have any value for them. So instead, they're printing a new set called Black Star Rising, which is going to bring that gameplay experience into your core space games. So it's considered a replacement for Shift Change at Megacorp so that players can access the worker and scavenger rule sets, which aren't changed. So it's really, like the miniatures and the items and stuff are new, but the rule set is the same. So think of it as, if you have Shift Change at Megacorp already, this might have value for you because you are getting new characters and new items and such. But if you don't have Shift Change at Megacorp, you don't have to hunt it down. You can just get this instead and get the same gameplay experience. So very cool. And they go into tons of detail here about how first of all, one cool thing is they're going to make the missions from Shift Change available to download. That's another thing about this company. There is an insane amount of stuff in there on their website that is free in terms of missions. I'll just show you here. I mean, look at all these missions. And Simon is really good about doing this with Zombicide too, and I just love this idea of building these games out and adding more mission types. And so Battle Systems is doing a great job at that as well. So they're going to be putting the missions from Shift Change at Megacorp out so that you won't miss out on any content, like gameplay content, by not being able to get a hold of it, because it's hard to get. It's basically out of print at this point. And so they're adding 4 new characters I believe. Yep. So you've got this guy with 4 arms. You've got Harris, Lope, and Kovac. These paint up pretty good. They're kind of small. I think they're 28 millimeter. Um, but I've painted a couple of the guys in my crew, and I really like the way that they came out. So they're pretty good sculpts, and this is just a really cool addition to the game that'll make it easier for people to try out this new system. Core Space is very modular. There are a lot of elements like that you can kind of tack on. The game comes with 2D terrain. Well, 2D, no, single floors worth of terrain, I should say. So it's 3D terrain, but it's all taking place on the same kind of plane, if that makes sense. But Battle Systems sells a whole range of multi-level terrain as well. And so if you get the advanced rulebook for Core Space, it comes with rules for playing on that multi-level terrain and for climbing and stuff like that, the kind of stuff that you wouldn't necessarily encounter in the base box. And so the game has always had this element of like include what you want, basically. You could build it out so that you include workers or workers and scavengers or just scavengers or none of them. You could just use these miniatures as civilians that are kind of wandering around, standard civilians that are wandering around. So lots of flexibility in the system. Very cool. So they note here too, there's another set called Rogue Purge, which was really cool because the bad guys in the Core Space universe, at least in the original box, are this kind of robotic AI called the Purge. And the Rogue Purge set added a rule set and characters and models that allowed you to play as a crew of Rogue Purge. Which is a pretty cool idea. And they note here that the demand for Rogue Purge wasn't as strong as for Shift Change, and they haven't sold out of it yet, and so they're not reprinting it or revisiting that kind of idea yet. But they are putting out another set, which is called Wanted, Dead or Alive. And this introduces, do they call them bounty hunters? Yeah, this introduces bounty hunters to the game. When these new, and it tells you how they work. It says, when these new NPCs enter the board, they mark their targets, the character they've been tasked with hunting down, and will pursue them relentlessly with a wide range of powerful weapons. When they get close, you'll reveal your fate. Have they been sent to extort you for an unpaid debt, drag you off to prison, or is this a stone cold execution? This is such a cool idea. The Purge work on like a very basic kind of AI system. It's been a while since I played Core Space, but it's one of those things where if you know the AI, it's possible to game it to an extent where you can kind of lure them, just like Zombicide, like lure them away from the objective that you're trying to get and send somebody else to sneak in there and grab it. It's still very unpredictable because they can spawn anywhere, and there's this event system in Core Space where you'll draw an event card, and it can do all sorts of stuff like lock all the doors in the station to limit your mobility, or enable the turrets, the security turrets in the system that'll target the Purge and kind of take them out for you. All sorts of awesome stuff like that. So there's still a lot of variability, but there is the ability to kind of mess with the Purge and trick them to some extent. And it sounds like this is a hard counter to that idea, because these guys are just going to be coming straight at you and will have their own mission that they're on, basically. Really cool idea, especially for solo play. And then it's also coming with another new type of character called auxiliaries, which represent robotic drones and animal companions that assist NPCs and traders to attack, defend, or carry gear. So this is a cool idea. It's basically you can get a droid or kind of an animal hound or a drone to fly around with you and help attack or carry your gear around for you. So this just sounds really cool. More Core Space is always a good thing. It's a really cool system that doesn't get enough coverage, I think, and enough kind of attention, and I'm happy to see that they're continuing to roll it out and that it's been successful. They have some really ambitious plans for this system. They've talked on the live streams about the possibility of like procedurally, like an app that would work kind of like the galactic map in something like Mass Effect, where you could decide where you go and kind of build out your own campaign based off of that. So you would go to a particular star system, and maybe you would encounter the Purge, or maybe that's a pirate, planet, and you're gonna run into the kind of seedier side of the core space universe. Really cool, great system, and a great company, and I highly recommend checking it out. And the core box alone is packed with just a ludicrous amount of gameplay content. It's really something special, and you can get it at Miniature Market. You can get it from Battle Systems directly, but they ship from the UK, so it'll be expensive and take forever unless you buy a ton of it. There's another site too called Troll Horde Games. They have a lot of core space stuff and some really great pricing on it, so I recommend them as well. So the next item that caught my attention is that there is yet another Zombicide game announced. So, man, CMON, they don't let Zombicide sit. They'll let Arcadia Quest sit for years, but Zombicide just keeps on rolling. It must be doing well. And this is really interesting, and kind of CMON really punching hard in the sense that they're partnering with Netflix, which is just like a huge partnership deal to me. Just because Netflix is so ubiquitous and so kind of such a colossal part of the entertainment industry now. And they're partnering with them to put out a themed version of Zombicide based on the new Zack Snyder movie Army of the Dead, which I haven't watched yet. I'm interested. I'll watch it. I don't love all of Zack Snyder's stuff, and I hate DC Comics. Sorry, guys. I just can't stand DC, and I think the movies are an abomination. And with the exception of, like the classic Batman movie and the Chris Nolan trilogy. And so, but everything Zack Snyder or Joss Whedon touched is just bleh. Even the Wonder Woman movies, I'm not really a fan of. It's just not my thing. Don't unsubscribe because of that. Maybe it's your thing, and maybe you can convince me in the comments. You can't, but you could try. Convince me otherwise. So we've got a new Zombicide game coming out themed off of Army of the Dead. So this is interesting. They don't say anything about it coming to Kickstarter, so it may come straight to retail. And they talk about basically, they go into the theme a little bit. The idea is that there was a zombie outbreak that took place 6 years ago, and Las Vegas has been kind of walled off as a no-go zone that is set to be nuked in 48 hours or something like that. And so a group of mercenaries is sent in there to recover some guy's money, $2 million that's in a casino vault. So they got to get it out before it gets nuked. And so there's not a lot of detail here in terms of the gameplay. They talk about how you're taking on the role of well-equipped and well-trained mercenaries. And so that may speak to the idea that you're kind of going to start, like maybe searching won't be as much of an aspect of this, and you're kind of going to start as a badass. Maybe leveling up even kind of won't be as much of a thing. And they say each of the mercs has their own unique skill set based on characters from the movie. There'll be scenes that are from the movie and scenes that are off screen that are designed specifically for the game. And they talk here about how it'll be a perfect jumping on point for people new to Zombicide. So this, to me, sounds basically identical to the Night of the Living Dead version that they put out. And that's another reason why I wouldn't be surprised if this didn't go to Kickstarter, because that didn't do particularly well on Kickstarter. It made, I don't know, like 500,000 or something like that. I haven't glanced at it recently, but it wasn't, a multi-million-dollar winner like the rest of their games. And it didn't have stretch goals, which is probably a driver for that. And it also was kind of a simpler version of the system. So this is interesting. If it doesn't contain some of the campaign elements, maybe the all-out element from Zombicide 2.0, then it'll just feel like a regression to me, and I doubt that I'll be interested in it. I'll watch the movie, but I can't imagine that I'm going to love it so much that I'll have to have a version of Zombicide themed for it. Because even the theme of the movie is, that's kind of generic. So, but could be cool. Who knows? And maybe it will go to Kickstarter. They kind of don't call it out here. They just announced it, so they may not even have firm plans on that yet. But an interesting announcement nonetheless. That Western campaign just ended, I want to say 2 months ago. And already there's another Zombicide game coming out. Crazy. They just keep cranking them out, but Zombicide is good stuff, so no complaints here on that. And then finally, just a note that the Dungeons and Lasers 3rd edition Kickstarter finally ended up bringing in over $1.7 million US. Just a huge campaign, a huge success. Congratulations to Archon Studio for such a great campaign. And having gotten if you saw my unboxing video or the little video I did with my son, Grumpy and Son, you'll know that this stuff is really high quality. It's incredible. It's exactly what I've been looking for years in terms of a highly modular, easily storable, easily transportable, beautiful, indestructible terrain system for 3D dungeon building. And one of the standouts in particular is the scatter terrain that these guys make is so good, and there's so much of it. The pledge that I bought came with 4 full boxes of scattered terrain, and I plan to buy 2 or 3 more sets of each set of scattered terrain so that it'll just be a one and done between the stuff that I'll already have and the stuff that I'll get in this Kickstarter and their future Kickstarters. I just won't ever need to buy another themed set of scattered terrain for a particular game because I'll already have this beautiful, indestructible stuff that I know is high quality and does basically the exact same thing. And I can't wait to start integrating this into some of my games. I'm already thinking about how Chronicles of Drunagor might work. And as soon as I start doing that, I will get it on camera. It's going to take me a while to clean all this stuff up. Although it's not taking as long as I would have thought. I'm doing a dry brush painting method, purely dry brushing. And you have to sand the pieces down on the edges to get the kind of sprue lines off of them and the kind of chunks of sprue that are stuck on them. And then you just prime it and just dry brush it with increasingly lighter tones of gray and white, and kind of lighter dry brushing up the scale, and it looks really good. So can't wait to get all of the stuff that came in this campaign, and really looking forward to the future of the Dungeons and Lasers system. And interestingly enough, these guys make a sci-fi set that I haven't purchased yet because it's not currently available on their web store or whatever. But they have said that they're going to be putting it back out, and I will be buying that because I will be using it with Core Space. Now, Core Space comes with this cardboard terrain, and it's decent, but it's finicky to set up, and it ultimately is just like a thicker cardboard. So the art on it is really cool, but I don't love this. It's hit or miss. Sometimes it'll go together really smoothly and look nice. Sometimes you'll spend 20 minutes trying to get one damn piece to kind of line up on the grid where it's supposed to be, and it's always you're just kind of throwing it on there, and you look at the map, the design that's in the campaign, and you're just like, well, I don't know, it's kind of close. And it really doesn't require particular like design. As long as you randomize the design basically and maybe broad stroke try to match it to what's in the mission, then you could easily use this Dungeons and Lasers stuff. And so my plan is to purchase a bunch of their sci-fi line too, and then I'll use it for Core Space, and I'll use it for Zombicide Invader, and I'll use it for other sci-fi games that come out in the future. Like I was just thinking to myself today that like Star Saga, which I never was interested in, but which if you took everything else out of it basically and all you had left was the rule set and maybe the miniatures and the cards, but you were using the Dungeons and Lasers terrain, might be kind of cool. Same thing with Dungeon Saga, which is another game that Mantic makes. Not a huge fan of Mantic. I don't find the quality of their games to be up to the same level as some of these other companies, but could be interesting. And so just lots of cool possible uses for this terrain system. And so I couldn't be happier that this is by far, I think, their most successful campaign. Almost 9,000 backers, over 9,000 backers. That's pretty impressive. So more to come on this in the future. There'll be another unboxing when I get all of the just insane pile of stuff that I pledged. The pledge that I ended up going with was the City Pledge. So it comes with 3 core sets. So if you saw my unboxing, you know that 1 core set honestly is more terrain than I thought it was going to be. It's a considerable amount of terrain. It's going to be enough to build a decent sized dungeon for sure. 3 more is going to just be hilariously massive and awesome and set me up for life basically. And then it comes with 11 rooms. The rooms are another set of basically, the sense that I have is that 2 or 3 rooms makes up a core set. So it comes with 11 more rooms, which are themed more. The core sets are kind of generically themed, so dungeons, sewers, and then the rooms are like, this is the lava caverns. And so my plan is to get basically 2 sets of all of the room sets, and with the pledge that I got and what I already have, that should be possible. And then it comes with the town folk, which are cool. NPC miniatures are always nice to have around to replace tokens and stuff in games like Descent. And then the stretch goals, which I don't even have a sense. Like, if there was one thing that was a little odd about this campaign, it's kind of how they show off or display the stretch goals. It just kind of doesn't. You can see, like, the amount of stuff these guys make is just hilarious. But I kind of don't have a good sense of what is going on with these stretch goals. Some of them are just drawings. Does it come with all this terrain as well as the miniatures? I don't know. I guess so. But I kind of don't care because I just know that it's going to come with a hilarious amount of awesome stuff. So kudos to Archon Studios for coming up with what is, to my mind, the indispensable 3D dungeon terrain system that is flexible enough to use with any board game, most board games, as well as stuff like Dungeons and Dragons and whatnot. And so that's it. That's all I had for this installment of Grumpy News. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about all this stuff in the comments. Let me know if you thought that the segment was interesting. And we will go from there. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you later.